through violence. And there's a potential for those large numbers of people who've been in the streets to respond in kind. Let's not forget the fact that the crucial day is not necessarily tomorrow, but once again another Friday in which people will be going to the mosques and they'll be gathering. And there's certain reason to expect that different groups may start to face off against each other. I think we're in a very, very dangerous situation in Egypt right now.
Stephen, who can interfere to stop this situation? I mean, there's a lot of talk about the army and what the army is doing, or lack of, rather. So how do you explain the army's position at this point of just sitting by and not taking a stance?
Well, I don't think that the army is just sitting by and not taking a stance. I think that the army, at least the senior command, is fully complicit in an effort to save the regime. That may not mean necessarily saving Mubarak, but they're certainly looking for a way in which he can have a graceful exit in order to reconstitute the regime under some new leadership, perhaps Omar Suleiman, perhaps some other military-related figure. But the fact of the matter is that the events as they've unfolded over the course of the last 24 hours suggest that there remains unity of command and that the officers were, as I said, complicit in the events that that happened today. There was the warning for people to leave Tahrir Square. Then there was the dispatch of these thugs and gangs into Tahrir Square, in which the military did not step in to intervene and prevent any of this violence. We have to remember that the Egyptian military is deeply enmeshed and intertwined with the regime and the economic arrangements of the Egyptian regime. And it's also important to remember that they are the inheritors of this regime from the free officers who founded it in the 1950s.
Okay, but what does the situation need at this particular point? What does it need to change? Is it more international pressure? We've heard countries coming out and condemning what's taking place in Egypt. I mean, what has to happen?
Well, I think the international condemnation is a good thing, and I think that the United States should make it clear that there are consequences of violence, not just pleading for restraint. But I think that we are at a point where Hosni Mubarak and the people around him believe that they are at an existential point. They have to do everything they can to save the regime, and pleadings from the international community or denunciations and indications that there will be consequences as a result of violence are clearly not making an impression on Mubarak and the people around him.
Okay, you mentioned Mubarak. I mean, do you think at this point of what's happening in Egypt, is he looking for some sort of exit? Is that what his people around him could be telling him? I mean, what's Mubarak thinking at this particular moment?
Well, at least by last evening's speech, he remains defiant to the end. He will not leave. He will not be run out of the country in the same way that the former Tunisian president was run out, that he had given his life in service of the country, and that he will continue. And it's clear that he would like to see the security of the regime. But there is a sense that there is some change. I think the elevation of Lieutenant General Omar Suleiman from Director of the General Intelligence Service to the Vice Presidency indicates that some sort of succession is underway. The thing now is to find a graceful exit for Mubarak, some wiggle room, and that's going to need, the requirement for that is getting the country back under control, and then somewhat down the road find, as I said, a graceful exit for Mubarak. But he's not going to be run out by the people in the streets. His plane is not going to traverse the Mediterranean, landing in places and then being turned away. He was clear about that last night.
All right, Stephen Cook, thank you very much for speaking to us there from Washington, D.C. Well, there's also been plenty of reaction, as you can imagine, on the internet and social media to the events taking place in Egypt. And we can get more on that with Nazanin Sadri at our Egypt desk. Nazanin.
Yes, thank you, Darian. Well, it's been a busy day with plenty of online activity related to the violent confrontations we've been seeing in the Egyptian capital. Here are some posts on Twitter describing some of the scenes from Liberation Square. Ahmed tweets, thugs attacking with dogs, knives, Molotov, tear gas and possibly fire guns. Pray for them, pray for them. Another tweet says, for families running out of food and money, fundraising will start tomorrow at 8 a.m. And here's another tweet calling for help. Volunteers needed in Qasr Aini Hospital for donations, receiving the injured. Well, lots of messages for prayers and help. As we've been reporting, some medical sources estimate more than 1,000 people have been injured in the clashes on Wednesday. This video has been posted on YouTube. It claims to show a makeshift medical centre in a back street close to Liberation Square, apparently shot during Wednesday's violence. We see injured protesters taken through to be treated. Most are said to have been hit by rocks. The YouTube page claims they are from the anti-government side and were attacked by pro-government crowds. We cannot, of course, verify this. And staying on the subject of the injured, take a look at these images. They were posted by a user on Facebook earlier on Wednesday. The page says it's from a so-called makeshift hospital set up in Cairo today to treat victims. As you can see, some disturbing pictures there showing the aftermath of the clashes. Of course, again, we cannot verify the images. And take a look at this picture posted recently online. It appears to show an army officer weeping after protesters were attacked in the square. Quite a poignant image, and quite a few tweets coming out actually reacting to it. And there's so much activity on Twitter that the site keeps going down temporarily. But the partial lifting of the internet blackout has meant that Al Jazeera teams on the ground have been sending us some regular tweets. Here are some latest updates from our correspondents in the last hour. It appears that exits to Tahrir Square are blocked off, trapping the demonstrators inside. It seems that this is very organised. Another one says, every so often a car pulls up on top of the overpass and appears to deliver Molotov cocktails to the pro-Mubarak supporters. I was chased by angry mobs twice, kicked a few times, had rocks thrown at me. Crowd very hostile to journalists. And you can, of course, keep up to date with those tweets and the latest news on our live blog on our website, updated 24 hours a day. That's it for me for now. Back to you, Doreen.
All right, Naz, thank you very much for that. Well, we can take a look at where things stand at the moment in Egypt. And Wednesday has seen clashes near Cairo's Tahrir Square, Liberation Square, as we're saying it's called, between what appear to have been pro and anti-government protesters. The two sides have pelted each other with stones and petrol bombs into the night. Egyptian health authorities say that 3 people are dead and more than 1,500 people have been injured.